What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I know I've talked about this before, but I want to talk about this from a different angle, okay? And that is this argument that comes from Jordan haters that the Chicago Bulls only ascended to the championship due to injuries to the best teams out there. And they love to say this one: the Pistons got old. That was always an excuse that you heard from Isaiah Thomas and some of the bad boy brethren. And then it exploded all over social media. And Jordan haters just run with it. They took the baton and ran with it all these years. But when you look at the evidence, there's really no truth to this. There's really no truth to this at all. Look, the Pistons lost their championship in 1991 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They got swept by the Bulls. When you look at the pattern here, look, the Pistons and Bulls first competed against one another. I believe it was in the 1988 playoffs. And in the 88 playoffs, they lost in the second round. I believe it might have been 4-1 or 4-2. I forget the spread. But they lost in I want to say 4-1. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But they lost in 88 in the semis. By 89, which was Michael Jordan's fifth season, by the way, his fifth, he and the Chicago Bulls, with second-year Scottie Pippen and second-year Horace Grant, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, his fifth year. And they're the only team to beat the bad boy Pistons in that playoff run. As a matter of fact, if you want to talk about a finals run that needs an asterisk, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Why don't people talk about the 89 Pistons run? In the first round, they beat a Boston Celtic team that didn't have Larry Bird. Then the next round, they beat a Milwaukee Bucks team that was a walking mash unit. 4 of their key guys were out, if I'm not mistaken. Then another player, I think 2 other players, got hurt during the series. So that team was just completely decimated by injuries. And then in the NBA Finals, they play a Showtime Lakers team that was rolling to the NBA Finals, 11-0. That is until Byron Scott was injured before the finals began, and then Magic Johnson came up lame with a hamstring injury. He was never the same again. I think he missed like 2 or 3 of those games, and it was over. And even with that, with Jeff Lamp being the starting point guard in some of those games, even though they got swept, a lot of those games were still, I think, matter of fact, all of them, or most of them, were won by single digits, which makes me believe that if Magic and Byron were healthy, I think the Lakers possibly would have won their 6th title. The only team to beat them in that entire playoff run were the Chicago Bulls, 2 games. And then the very next year, they take the Pistons to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. 7! And despite the fact that Michael Jordan received no help at all at the Palace at Auburn Hills, the rest of the starters outside of Michael Jordan, who had 31 points and I think 7 rebounds in that game and shot 13 and 27. Outside of Michael Jordan, the rest of the starters and B.J. Armstrong missed 46 out of 57 shots. 46 out of 57 shots. I mean, you talk about choking. That's the Scottie Pippen migraine game. He went 1 of 10 from the floor and had a super duper Excedrin galactic size headache. Excuse me. So when you look at all of that, right, you see a natural progression. The Bulls were getting better and better and better every year. So in 91, it made sense that they got their ass swept. The Bulls were just a better team. They could have won by 90, honestly, if it wasn't for that monster headache that Scottie Pippen had. The Bulls got better. They got more experience. They got tougher. Michael Jordan got tougher, got stronger, and they bulldozed the Pistons. But it doesn't mean the Pistons weren't good. Matter of fact, in 1992, these three guys right here were all all-stars. All of them. Joe Dumars, Dennis Rodman, and Isaiah Thomas were all all-stars in the 1991-92 season. So how were they old, ladies and gentlemen? The 91-92 season, Isaiah Thomas played in 78 games, averaging 18.5, 3.2 rebounds, 7.2 assists, 1.5 steals. Right? Joe Dumars, that season, appeared in all 82 games, averaging 19.9 points, 2.3 rebounds, 4.6 assists, shot 41% from downtown. And Dennis Rodman had his greatest rebounding year ever, putting up numbers we hadn't seen since the likes of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. Played in all 82 games, averaged 9.8 points, 18.7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. One of 2 years, the last time actually that he was actually an all-star. The Bulls, I believe, only had 2 all-stars, Jordan and Pippen. So how does this work again? How was it that they got old? In 1992, Isaiah Thomas was, I think, 30 years old by the time he was an all-star. Joe Dumars was 28. Dennis Rodman was, I think, 30. So how are these guys old? But you never hear an excuse for the Bulls in the late 90s. That was never an excuse. It was never an excuse their age, even though they're the oldest team ever to win a championship. Michael Jordan was 35. Scottie Pippen was 32. Dennis Rodman was 37. Ron Harper was 34. But age was never an excuse for the Chicago Bulls. So how could it be for the Detroit Pistons? And if we're going to make this argument that they only won the Bulls because they got old, well, can't we make the same argument for the Pistons? I mean, the Philadelphia 76ers, Julius Erving, Moses Malone, and, Maurice Cheeks, didn't they get older? Didn't Andrew Toney's career get ruined by foot and heel injuries? So they benefited from age and attrition and injuries. The Showtime Lakers, they started getting older, right? Outside of Magic Johnson and Byron Scott, right? They started getting older. The Celtics were getting older by the late 80s, going into the 90s. But people never use that as an excuse. Why? Because it's lame. It's lame, ladies and gentlemen. The Bulls were just simply better than the Detroit Pistons. They were a better basketball team. Some people say, teams were complaining about the physicality and all of that. At the end of the day, if you have to beat the hell out of your opponents to win games, then you really can't be that great. Don't get me wrong, they were great, but come on. You know, so I just want to do this video right quick, man. I just get so annoyed when people talk about the Pistons got old. The Pistons got old. I mean, come on. You know, most of those guys were no old. I think the oldest player on that team was Bill Laimbeer. And in 1992, I think he was about 34, 35. Now, he was getting older. But the other Pistons were pretty close to their primes. Some of them were in their exact prime years, late 20s, 30. It's not old, ladies and gentlemen. Even by the standards of the 90s, that wasn't old. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.
Core real.